You can order the fender used in the video on the CarParts.com website via the link in the description. Turn off your engine and set the parking brake. Pull on the hood release handle and open the hood. To change the fender on your vehicle, you need to remove the headlight. To do so, we recommend watching our video, How to Replace the Headlight Assembly Ford F150. Then, you need to remove the wheel arch trim. Using a Phillips screwdriver, remove the 5 screws holding the wheel arch trim. Then remove it. Hey, it's Alex from CarParts.com. If you enjoyed this video and want to support us, like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, back to work. Using a ratchet and a 5.5mm socket, remove the 3 screws attaching the mudguard to the fender. Now, you need to remove the 3 screws attaching the bumper cover to the fender. Spray them with penetrating oil to make them easier to remove. Then, unscrew them using a ratchet and a 10mm socket. You can access the 2 screws in the back via the wheel arches. Using a ratchet and a 5.5mm socket, remove the first 2 screws that attach the mudguard to the fender. Then, using a ratchet and a 10mm socket, remove the 2 bottom screws while holding the nut with a 10mm wrench. Next, shift the mudguard and, using a ratchet, an extender, and an 8mm socket, unscrew the fender retaining screw. Open the door. Then, unscrew the retaining screw in the door opening using the same tools. Spray the screw holding the bumper cover on the fender's metal support with penetrating oil. Then, from the wheel arch, unscrew the screw holding the bumper cover using a ratchet and a Torx T30 bit. Using a ratchet, an extender, and an 8mm socket, unscrew the screw holding the fender's metal support. If you want to know which tools and parts we use in this video, just check the description and you'll find everything you need. Remove the bumper cover from the fender by pulling it down and out. Using a ratchet and a 10mm socket, unscrew the 3 screws holding the fender situated along the hood. You can now remove the fender. You can order the fender used in the video on the CarParts.com website via the link in the description. Put the clips recovered from your previous fender on the new fender. Put the new fender in position on the vehicle. The alignment of the fender with the door and the hood must be done with both the door and hood in closed position. Start by replacing the 3 screws holding the fender along the length of the hood, without tightening them too much in order to keep the necessary play to adjust the alignment of the fender with the hood. Carefully close the hood. Then, align the fender, keeping an even spacing along the entire length of the hood. Once in position, open the hood. You can purchase the parts we used here by visiting our website at CarParts.com. Then finish tightening the 3 screws. Retighten the screws on the fender's metal support. Check for proper alignment of the fender with the door. Once adjusted, lock the fender in position by tightening the screw located in the door opening. Then, tighten the screw behind the mudguard. Next, screw back in the 2 screws located under the mud flap. Once the 4 adjustment screws are screwed back in, check the alignment of the fender with the door. Replace the mud flap. Replace the mudguard behind the fender. Screw back in the 2 screws holding the mud flap. Then, reinsert the bumper cover on the fender. Next, via the wheel arches, screw back in the 2 screws holding the bumper cover on the fender's metal supports. Screw back in the 3 screws that hold the bumper cover on the fender. Screw back in the 3 screws that hold the mudguard on the fender. Replace the wheel arch trim. Replace the headlight. To do so, we recommend watching our video, How to Replace the Headlight Assembly Ford F150. You can now recover the emblem from the old fender or install a new emblem. Operation complete.